There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Prince of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt, and it's just me solo today. I'm Wes is on his way. He's gonna record a few with me. I'm trying to get ahead because I'm gonna be gone for a couple of weeks. I won't be able to film or record, I should say, any of these. So I'm trying to get a little bit of ahead. And I thought about a filler one while doing Saturday Morning Salmon Flange. Which actually this one may come out before I put out the other one. Now that I think about it, but I had an idea about telling stories from summer camp. It's still summertime here. I don't know about you, but some of my best memories, honestly, I loved when we went to summer camp for 1 week in the summer, usually in July, I think is when it was. That was the pinnacle of my year. I loved summer camp more than anything. Now, my favorite part of the year is probably our beach vacation, which is what I'll be on coming soon. That's what I look forward to more than Christmas, you know. Definitely more than my own birthday, too. But I definitely look at that as being the pinnacle of my year now. And the summer vacation, summer camp thing was great. I don't know how summer camp was for you, but it was always great for me. We went to Christian summer camps going up. So, of course, there's like Christian lectures going on in the daytime. Then in the afternoon, you get to play a lot. Then go back for one more in the evening, then play a little bit longer. Then it's lights out by midnight, right? I think we had to go to your room by, I don't know, 10:30, 11:30. But then it was at midnight. It was lights out. I remember every calendar, every schedule would say 12 o'clock and say lights out with an exclamation point. So I guess they suggested midnight being the best time for high schoolers and college kids to go to bed. The first one I ever attended, my dad was the speaker at these a lot of the times, and we went to one, and I remember my dad took us. He went, "You're going to be going to these soon." He said, "But I'll take you to one." And I was 13, I remember, I think, and I was really nervous because all the boys were bigger than me, taller than me. I was like, I don't know about this, and you know, I remember having an okay time, but mainly just being intimidated because all the kids were older than me. And but then the next year when we got shipped out, that all changed because we went with a group of people we knew from our church, and I had a blast. And I remember it was 92, 93, 91 maybe was my first one. But I remember thinking, wow, that was a heck of a lot of fun. And had fun going ever since. And then they, after a while, I remember our church thought, us going to the beach and seeing ladies in their swimsuits was just sinful. Nowadays, it's not a problem, but back then, it was very sinful to see that. So they decided, we're not going to let you go to the beach anymore. We're going to go to another one. And they pulled it, out of their butt, the next place they wanted us to go to, saying this was going to be the place we're going to go to forever. And it was someplace out in Texas. We were all kind of bummed. And but I almost did not go. I know some people revolted and said, you know what? They got their parents to keep sending them to the beach one. But my parents were not going to let me go back to the beach. I was disappointed. I was like, well, it's either Texas or nothing. And I remember, I don't think my brother came to that one. I think he chose nothing. But I was like, well, I'll go. And I went and I had a blast. And then they pulled that one very quickly from us, which I still have one friend, actually the speaker. He was the speaker that year. He and I still talk to this day. To this day, I'll write him maybe twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year, ask him what's up, show him pictures. I need to do that right now, now that I'm thinking about it. But we became good friends, and I made lots of other friends. I just lost them over the years. But that was really fun. And then I got mad because they pulled us away again. Said, you're going to Virginia. And I was like, because they found another one that was even more strict. The other one wasn't as strict. The one in Texas was a little bit more loose. More. I remember there was some playtime in the mornings, and they didn't like that. Like, wait, there's one lecture in the mornings, not lectures all morning long. No, there's only one lecture. Egad, how horrible. And, there's a lot more free time in this one. They hated that, so they took us to a different one where there's less free time for us. Anyway, so I went to one in Virginia, had a great time, went for that for years. The hardest thing for me to do was when I graduated, I wasn't going back. People thought I was lying because there wasn't a rule against that you had to be in college. But when you got out of college, why go back? Because that was a college. It was the one I was going to was for college and high school. And I went, because I asked him, I said, can we come back the next year if we want to? He's like, you can keep coming back as long as you want. He said, we're just going to keep letting people come back. He said, because some people go to get their master's degree. And at the time I was thinking about my master's. He went, so yeah, he said, for at least another, he said 2-3 years, we'll let people come back, even though even though they graduated. And I was like, really? And then I thought, well, that's kind of pathetic because I've graduated. I'm not a college kid anymore. And I remember I had a hard time because I wrestled with it. I said, am I really not going? And I decided, no, I'm going to stand firm. My friends returned, and one of them felt embarrassed. He said, Matt, I'm so proud of you for not showing. I mean, it killed me. That whole week I was miserable, knowing that everyone was having a great time, and I was working a full-time job at the time. And I was so miserable, I remember. And my buddy called me afterwards. He went, Matt, I had a good time, but at the same time, you're right. Yeah, I didn't even talk to him about it. I didn't tell anyone. I told people my decision last year was not to come back, and they thought, whatever, you're going to be back. You love this too much. And I did, but I stayed firm. And my buddies came back, and it was awkward not being a college kid now. He said, because I got a full-time job now. I'm getting responsibilities. And to be honest, these other two guys were way more mature than I was. But they were kind of realizing that, yeah, we should move on from this. And he said, so bravo to you for moving on. You were the most mature of all of us right now. I was like, well, really, I'm not. I was dying. I would have done anything to be there. In fact, a few years later, I went back as a counselor. And those are good stories, too. So I'm going to share some summer camp stories. I was a little bit of a prankster, a little bit of a trickster back then. Nothing too damaging, but I love playing pranks. One time, this is back before I was going to fly there because I hated driving there. Well, our chaperones got worse and worse every year. There was one chaperone, and everyone hated him. I never had a problem with him. He was a jerk on the road. He wanted everyone to, you only had a 5-minute break for bathroom, and that was it. And he'd start the car and start driving off without you. I mean, he was just he wanted to be on time. He would tell everyone, hurry up, get your food, go, get back in the car, time's up, no more time. You should have gone to the bathroom earlier. Now you got to hold it or pee in a bottle. I mean, just really ruthless. But the thing was, he just wanted to get us in on time. When we got there, he didn't even talk to us. He wasn't a chaperone, he was just our escort. And he made sure to get us there on time and get us home on time. So he was a road warrior, a real stickler on the road. But other than that, he didn't bother me. I was like, oh, when I realized all he wanted to do was get us there on time, I was like, I get it. You're with a bunch of stupid kids. I realized, as a kid, I realized that. I went, he probably doesn't want to deal with us. He just wants to ship us from point A to point B and then back with little problems. And he leaves us alone. I was like, he's great. Well, everyone complained about him, so they got a new chaperone, and he was even worse. He was a dictator on the road and off the road, too. On the road there, though, I came up with a hilarious prank that drained his blood from his face. But we stopped at a rest area. We only had X amount of minutes to use the bathroom. And so I'm going with a buddy of mine he'd never gone before. No one really knew him either. He was from another church. And I started talking to him. I got to know him, and he was really cool. And I said, hey, dude, do you want to play a prank on everyone? He was like, sure. So I walked up there was a security guard at the rest area, and I said, hey, would you mind cuffing my buddy, driving us through the go-kart to my team over there? And I told him what was going on. I said, we're just a group traveling to summer camp. He said, but could you just tell him that he got arrested for fighting some old lady, at the tourist desk or whatever? He went, sure. And he thought it was funny. So we drive up there. I did the old splash of water in my eyes to make it look like I'd been sobbing, even though I was not arrested, because they wouldn't believe if I got arrested, they wouldn't have believed it. But they didn't know Jack. His name was Jack back then. They didn't know Jack. Well, his name's Jack still today. I keep up with him. He's still a good friend of mine today. But this is when we first met. I still have a picture of this, and I think I've shown it on some of my streams before. It's a picture of him being cuffed with the security guard and me giving the thumbs up, smiling behind their backs, because it was a great prank. But when he came up there, I mean, our counselor was just white. He was just shocked, and he was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? One of these kids got arrested. I don't really know this kid. I don't know what's going on. And the security guard, to his credit, is saying, yeah, he got into a fight with an elderly lady at the front desk, and we can't have that, so we're going to arrest him. We're going to take him down to the station. Here's what you need to do. I need to get your contact information. I'll let you know I'll give you directions to where the station is. You can follow me there. And then at that point, I believe, I asked Jack, I saw Jack last year, or 2 years ago. I can't remember when the last time I saw him, but I saw him in person. We hung out maybe a year or two ago. And I cannot remember which one of us cracked. He thinks he did, but I don't think he did. I honestly think I cracked first. But maybe it was so close, it was the same time, but I could not handle it because everyone was shocked. And I just bust out laughing. Then we all bust out laughing. And they're so confused. And then everyone realized it's a prank. It's a prank. I'd thrown a prank. I'd started my pranks early that year. So that was the best on the road. I pulled a few on the road pranks, but that was the best one. So at the, well, before I left too, when I was going to fly one year, because I was done with that other counselor after that 1 year on the road, my brother got in trouble for talking back to him. I didn't talk back to him. I said, I'm not going with you, man. And when he tried to boss me around when I got to camp that summer, I said, I'm sorry. I said, but Mr. Bill, I said, I didn't drive with you. You're not my chaperone. I bought my own ticket. I am my own. So with all respect, I said, you didn't chaperone me. I didn't agree to this. I'm an adult. I'm over 18. And I am not going to listen. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to go to you. He wanted me to come to, he had a nightly meeting with the group to go over rules. And he left me alone. He left me alone, but I was very firm, but I was trying to be as respectful as I could be because I knew he'd get offended really quickly. But I said, look, I'm a grown adult. I didn't do this and, respect you and everything. Remember, I was very respectful last year to you, but this year I want to do my own thing. And I believe I deserve that right. And I believe I'm giving you respect. I just asked that in return. So thank you very much. And just, I guess because maybe I spoke to him that way, he let me go. I'm sure he wasn't happy. But anyway, right before that, to get me to the airport, all my friends were gone. They were going to the camp. So the only person who wasn't going was my cousin. My cousin worked 80 hours in the summer. And he was a hard worker in the summer, so that way when he was in school, he wouldn't have to work at all. He did not work during the semesters. He just did school. But he was an 80-hour guy. Well, he had 1 day off. And I remember that's the day he didn't have to wake up at 6. And that was the day I had to get on the plane. I said, please drive me and drop me off. He said, no, man, that's the one night I have off. I'm going to sleep in that day. And I thought, man, you were so inconsiderate. So what I did is I set up, well, this is back when alarm clocks were a thing. I set up 4 different alarm clocks all over the bedroom. One to go off at 2 in the morning, another one at 3, then 4. And then the one at 5 says, don't you wish you would have taken, because by then I would have, or 5:30. I can't, maybe it was 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, 5:30. And the one at 5:30, because I was already gone, I would have already been gone by then. I said, don't you wish you would have taken me to the airport instead of slept in, is what it said. And I had them hidden everywhere. The first one was easy. It was right next to his stand, his nightstand. He didn't know I'd reset it to 2:30. And he probably would have thought, oh man, that was weird. That was an accident. And then the second one was right underneath his bed. I mean, he could have reached right underneath there and turned it off and thought that was funny. That was Matt probably doing that or whatever. And then the third one was going to be, I can't remember, on a bookshelf that he was going to have to get up out of his bed. And then the last one was in his closet, which was open, but I had one right there, and I set it to really loud. Well, the last minute, he decided he'd wake up and take me. And I said, you will? He said, yeah. I said, okay. So we went to bed. Then I got right up, knocked on his door. He said, what? I said, just one moment. And I turned on the light, and I went on and took all of the alarm clocks out and then reset the one by his bed. He went, uh-huh. Uh-huh. He realized he was about to get pranked. He said, thank you for taking me. I really appreciate you. I love you, cousin. He was my cousin. He's still my cousin. But yeah, it was a really good prank. Anyway, so being there, it's not just about pranks either. I'm infamous. My story still gets told, supposedly. No, I know it gets told because someone in town just this past summer reminded my brother about it. He said they still talk about this. There was a girl who was kind of hoity-toity, who's from the small town in Idaho, and I knew her brother. I was friends with her brother. And the story has been way over-embellished over the years. And she's fine with the story being over-embellished because she kind of got the last laugh on me. But, she was very pretty, but very full of herself. And everyone had a crush on her, but no one had the guts to talk to her. And I said, dude, I'll go right up there, slap her on the butt and say, what's up, hottie, or whatnot. I said, no, you won't. I said, yeah, I will. And I walked up to her, and I did not slap her on the butt. The story is I smacked her on the butt and said, what's up? I said, no, is this seat taken? And I did say that, actually. And so, but instead, I got out my wallet and popped her. I did not slap her on the buttocks. Even back then in the 90s, when it was totally acceptable to do something like that, I get, in a way, I knew I was not going to do that. So I popped her with the wallet, and I said, "Is this seat taken?" She turned, gave me a smile, because she knew who I was, and then rammed an ice cream cone in my face. And actually, I have the picture of me turning around because someone took a picture. And it's me laughing, and my hands are up because the ice cream had just fallen off my face. And so the ice, you see some vanilla on me. And it's a really funny picture, but someone took a picture right after the event happened. I need to show that to my brother now to think about it. But it was a really funny incident. And now I remember when I was I went to this small town because that was where a college in Spokane, Idaho, where the University of Idaho is. That's where my brothers went. And I went, and I remember going into an Applebee's. And my brother sat down, and he knew the waiter, because this is back when everyone was in college. He went, "Hey," he went, "this is my brother Matt." And he turned to me, he went, "Are you the one that popped Rachel on the butt?" I went, "Well, actually," he went, "Yeah, no." He said, "It's you, right?" I said, "Yeah, I did." He went, "Your dinner's paid for. Your dinner's paid. Order whatever you want." And he was serious. Because they just thought it was so funny that someone treated her like that, because she was kind of a hoity-toity girl. But that was really fun. Another one, another great, lots of great memories from these summer camps. But I remember one of my favorite ones, and this is, my brother would love this because he got the upper hand on this. One of our best friends, he was a chaperone that year. He was always older than us. And he didn't know who my dad was, and he was kind of, in a way, talking about how boring my dad was. He didn't know me, and I was smiling, going, "Oh yeah, he's very boring, isn't he?" He's like, "Yeah, he's just so boring." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, he's such a boring guy. You know, he's the most boring speaker here." I was like, "Oh yeah." You know, I just thought it was funny that he didn't realize that he was talking to his son. Well, then after I left, he found out, and he was just upset. You know, so upset that, you know, he had been bad-mouthing my dad, but I loved him. We still laugh about this. And I remember the next, or maybe I don't know if it was the next year or whenever, or maybe it was 2 years earlier or a year earlier, or maybe it was the first of that year. I'd seen him, went right up to him, was like, "Roger!" Roger was my roommate for a while, but this is back before we were roommates, before he even lived in my town. I was like, "Roger!" And I bushed through a crowd to hug him. He's like, "Hey, man, how's it going?" He didn't know who I was. That was really funny. Gosh, I used to, you'd back then, before email, you'd be pen pals with certain girls in summer camp, and you'd write them letters. I don't know if you did, but I sure did. I wrote guys too. But we didn't have email back then, so we wrote. And then, of course, we started exchanging emails too. You start, doing an email chain with getting everyone's email on the last day. But anyway, back then you wrote letters back and forth. And I wrote a ton of letters to this girl that I had the biggest crush on. And my buddy, Roger, when he moved into town, he goes, I said, "Yeah, man, remember that girl from summer camp? Dude, she was so hot. I wrote her 1,000,000 times, and she never wrote me back." He went, "Wait." He said, "I think she wrote me." And then he said, "Yeah, she did." And then he brings out like 5 letters from her. And she sent pictures. And they were perfume scented. And he never wrote her back once. She had the biggest crush on him. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, "Did I not tell you? I just wrote her 3 times this summer and she never wrote me back." He went, "Well, maybe she was busy." I went, "What, writing you?" And he started laughing. It was really funny. Roger, man, I don't know if he listens to the podcast anymore, but I would love to have Roger on this podcast. Need to call him, ask him when he's coming on next time. When he's coming here, because he still has in-laws here. But either way, summer camp, I played intramural sports at summer camp too. I think I've talked a little bit about this before. In Texas, I was really good at the time in basketball. And I remember there was one guy who was actually a little bit better than me, but I got drafted first based on personality. They had a tournament, and then they had an all-star game on the last day, because the tournament had ended earlier that day, and they still wanted to play one more basketball game. I remember I got invited to I was homeschooled back then, and I got an invitation to the homeschooling annual tournament that took place in Texas too. They offered me. They said, "Hey, look, if you want to get together a team in your hometown and come play," they said, "but you've got a spot in the tournament." And I was like, "Shut up!" Just because of my awesome ball skills, which I don't have anymore. But I remember I completed a half court. I threw it like with a few seconds left to go. I just one-armed it half court and made the shot, and it was incredible. Everyone thought I could do that all day. I was just pretending. I'd never shot a half court shot before, but I just chucked it and it ran on in. Everyone just thought that was so amazing, and I was super cool back then. But tons of memories, because basketball and volleyball were always things you always played. I really wanted to have a championship volleyball team, never did. I think I've even talked about this now. Now that I think about this, maybe I've talked about this topic before. But in summer camp, we had a really good basketball team. And then one night where we were practicing for the next game, a bunch of girls came up, challenged us to a match. I said, "Okay, we're going to 10. Y'all have a 9-point lead and ball first. I mean, come on, get out of here, you're girls." And they said, No, we want it even. We just play y'all. And I was like, "Sure, I guess." But I was like, "Man, these girls are not going to be good." Well, they'd make a shot here or there. I'd be covering someone. Then I'd run into another one. I'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry." And they go, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there." I was like, "That's all right." And then after the third or fourth time it happened, I realized it was a pick. They were acting like it was an accident, but these girls knew how to play basketball, and they actually beat us. I mean, I was letting them get a lead because I thought, this is cute. They think they're going to win. But then when I realized they really knew how to play, I knew we were in trouble. And my two other guys, they were mediocre players, but I tried to come back, and it was too late. It was too late. They went full court on us and beat us by 1. And it got all around campus the next day that, Matt's basketball team got beat by a bunch of girls. So the next night I challenged them because my pride was hurt. And so I challenged them. And I mean, that night for an unofficial game, everyone was there, I think. Everyone was there. My brother was cheering for the girls. And we killed them. I really had an attitude back then. I had a big chip on my shoulder, and we slaughtered them. I think they only got 3 points the entire game. But I was all over it. And so then they said rematch, because it's equal. And when the rematch, we just stomped them even harder. I don't think they scored a single goal. And to be fair, I was friends with 2 of those girls. It was a 3-on-3 game. And 2 of those girls I remained friends with for a very long time, well into at least 2005, 2006, and this is about, 10 years maybe? 10 years I kept friends with them, so yeah. And, we laughed about that. That was one of my favorite stories to tell, but I didn't tell the other 2 stories because I thought, why did I let that, good on them for fooling me that they knew how to play basketball. Me having a little, my pride hurt, and then, putting it in their face the next 2 games was probably, bad sportsmanship. But, thankfully they didn't let that, destroy the friendship, because I can't remember what happened to the other girl. I don't think I ever talked to her much, but the other 2 I kept up with through email, and then I actually saw a few of them for a while. Heck, I dated one, I think, for a very brief time. Brief time. For a couple of weeks, but anyway, it was really awesome, and I really wish I knew where they were today. Actually, now, I hate, that's one of the things about social media. You could keep up with these friends that you haven't seen in years, and I just don't care about doing social media, I guess. So maybe it's not worth it. I don't know. If they want to find me hard enough, they can find my wife and then be friends with her, and I guess that's fine. But yeah, I'm not much for social media. Anyway, other things. Just trying to think about it. I wrote a few out, but now I don't want to talk about these. These are kind of boring here. I remember when I was a counselor, and the other counselors were upset because they knew how much of a prankster I was. And I remember one counselor just straight up went to me and said, "Well, Mr. Wilkins," he said, "I guess you would make a great counselor. You know all the rules because you broke them." And I was like, that's not fair, but it actually was very fair to say, because we weren't supposed to be allowed in the girls' room, but there are pictures of me in the girls' dorm on the very first day. I snuck in there while we were, bringing their bags in. But to show off in front of the other guys, I took pictures in the girls' dorm and would show them later on and say, yeah, I was in the girls' dorm the other day. Meaning day one when we were moving in back. They're like, whoa, legend. I was like, yeah, legend. Cheat. But my favorite one was I was watching a video just a couple of years ago with my nephew, or I can't remember who it was, my brother or whatever, and we were watching it, we were laughing, and my brother goes, don't you still have those shoes and that shirt right now? And he was true. Now I don't have either. The shoes finally, I used to have these hiking boots, and I loved them. And I loved them so much that I rarely wore them because you'd wear out the soles. Now, just the past year, about a year ago, they finally died on me because I would wear them every once in a while. But here's what happened. I'd forget them. I left them in Branson, Missouri once for a whole year at a friend's house, and he kept them unbelievably. And I kept wearing them. When they started losing their soles, I super glued them. But then after a while, and I got new shoelaces for them. But those hiking boots lasted forever. And like I said, just last year, because I went out one night and they fell apart on me. And I remember I called someone to bring in the next pair I had, and those fell out too. I mean, that whole night was terrible because I needed hiking boots for something, and the boots, all my hiking boots were so old. And they were like, what's happening to your hiking boots? I said, don't be upset. I said, these aren't brand new. I said, these have been around for decades now, back in my college days when I first had them. But I remember I just loved those hiking boots. But when they started getting worn, I would only wear them sparingly. Like when I was married when I got married with my wife, they just stayed in the closet they've been in the closet for 10 years. Honestly, 12 years until I finally decided to wear them. I don't think I even wore them around my wife. I may have worn them before we got married, but I knew they were deteriorating faster and faster. So that was funny that you could see the video and you could see I was still wearing the same shirt and same clothes I was wearing today. Actually, I may have been wearing that same outfit while watching the video, I think it was. But I don't have that shirt anymore. I do have some old shirts from my college days, I think. Still a few. Maybe one as far back as high school. No, I think that's college too. So I still have a few, but I just don't wear them at all anymore. And I did do a purge of old clothes, but hey, I love them clothes. Of course, Wes could talk a lot about my clothes, my clothing habits too. He used to make fun of me constantly. He still does over them. So thanks, Wes. Glad I have you on the podcast always. Anyway, of course, as you know, he's always obsessed by what people are wearing anyway. So there's reason for this. But anyway, summer camp. I don't want to talk about any of these stories. I don't think. I don't want to talk about any of these. The other one was I was so well known for pranks that my name was kind of infamous at this summer camp after a while. When I came back as a counselor, people were trying to impress me with these over-the-top pranks I would never have approved of. Like, they were kind of damaging or destroying public or campus property and everything, and they were getting threatened by the campus. Hey, look, if your kids are going to be this rowdy, we're not going to let them back. And the chief counselor knew it was all a ruse to get me to be impressed with them. And he said, hey, look, whoever's doing this, they're going to come to you, and then you're going to rat them out to me. And I was like, they're not going to come to me. What are you talking about? No one's dumb enough to admit that they did all this. And sure enough, the kids came up to me second to last day and said, and it took credit for all of it. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I turned them on in. Sorry, had to rat them out. Let me see. The other stuff we used to do a top 10 hottest girls of the conference, and people got so mad. The girls got really mad that we did that and that I ran it and everything. But at the same time, every girl tried to be friends with me because they wanted to make sure they were the winner for that year. It was so funny. I mean, you think about how petty we all were back in high school and college, back then. That kind of stuff mattered. But I never sat by the same person twice. In any of those years that we went, never sat by the same girl twice, never hooked up with anyone over summer camp or anything. My brother did once. That was really funny. It was at my we were on our way up there, I think, and he was making out with her that night. We spent the night at my grandmother's house. He's making out in my grandmother's living room. My grandmother woke up, saw them, did not know who the knew who the girl was, couldn't tell which one of the boys it was, knew it was one of us. Told my mom the next morning. My mom went after subject number one, which was me, slammed me up against the wall, said, were you making out with whatever, Maury, I guess was her name, last night in the living room? I was like, no, Mom, I went to bed early with Jeremy. You know that. I said, remember? She went, oh, and she cut me off, said, oh, I know it's not Jeremy, and kept walking. She knew my brother would not make out with a girl at the time. He was too nerdy, I guess. But she went after me, but then knew it was Bray, and Bray got in trouble for it. Smooching in the living room, in the grandma's living room. Anyway, all right, so maybe this kind of went off the rails here, but I just had a lot of fun time reminiscing, and I don't care. It's my podcast. I can talk about what I want to. Hey, I'm going to have Wes on here. Got lots to talk about. I'm going to talk about The Flash. Maybe later on another podcast, what we think should be the next direction of James Gunn's DC Universe. So stay tuned for more Princes of the Universe.